Okay, good evening and welcome to my webinar entitled Synergy, Garnering Support for Your Music Program. For those of you who are joining me through Zoom or joining me through Facebook Live, I welcome you. I know we'll have some various people joining in, and I'm going to try my best to monitor the comments as we go. So if you have any questions throughout, I will get to them. I think the best way to do it is to have the question and answer session at the end so I can kind of shift. I'm working on two computers here. This is my first time doing the Facebook Live thing. So again, welcome, and we're going to get started. The purpose for this webinar, of course, is to provide ideas and strategies for increasing program support from the non-musical student body, faculty, colleagues, administrators, parents, and the community, and to discuss ways now to increase or maintain support during and post-COVID. Of course, some of us had some challenges with support for our programs and support for our events before COVID, but even more so now, we have to talk about ways to maintain support or to garner new support from within our school and outside of our school programs. This webinar is coming as a result of a poll I did on Facebook, or a question I launched on Facebook several months ago. And I mentioned to identify or name ways where, or name something you wish you had learned in college or wish your advisors or professors had told you that would have helped to make you a more effective teacher or make your programs more effective, or to identify something that would have prevented you from changing your major if you changed out of music education or music performance. This particular topic on getting more support for our music programs from people outside of our programs, it was a response that I received frequently. So I said, well, let me do a webinar about it so we can address some of these things. This webinar today will be broken down into two parts. The first part we'll be talking about planning, communication, and logistics. And then the second part we'll talk about the importance of collaborating and synergy within our schools and outside of our schools with our local community. Take a few moments and reflect. If you're joining me here on Zoom, or if you're joining me on Facebook Live, feel free to use the chat box, or just feel free to just think to yourselves, where are you now? Where's your program now? Think about the amount of support you're getting from your administrators, from the student body. And I know, of course, this is a lot different now, of course, with COVID. And if you're virtual learning, is very different. But think about the type of support that you've been receiving for your program from parents, from the local community, from your feeder programs, from your staff, again, from your administrators as well. Think about the type of support you received or the lack of support you may have felt that you did not receive. And think about where you want to be. What type of support do you want? What do you feel would dictate success as having successful or substantial support for your program? And then I want you to reflect as we go through this, what are some things we can do to bridge the gap between the level of support you're receiving now, or even the level of support you received before COVID, and where you really want to be? What type of support is it that you're looking for? Part one, there are several types of support. When you're thinking about your program, a lot of the times when we say, yeah, support our program, people automatically assume that we're always asking for money. And that's not always the case. Sometimes we may be asking for your time or sweat equity. We may need volunteers to come and help serve as chaperones. We may need someone to help come and run a concession stand, come pass out uniforms, help our choir get ready for a performance, pass out robes, number robes, help take inventory. So we may be looking for support in the realm of just physical support, coming out and dedicating your time. We may be looking for financial support, especially if we've had instruments or we've had choral equipment for a long time and they're in need of repair or replacement, or our programs are growing and now the number of people we have outnumbered the amount of working equipment we have. We may need financial support to help us travel and perform, or to help enter a competition, or just to maintain the everyday operations of our band or choral programs, or orchestral programs if you are an orchestra director. Academic and educational support. one thing that we don't often address, it happens to us, but we kind of just take it and just let it roll off our shoulders, or we'll take it and we gripe about it to ourselves or to our colleagues. But we need support academically or educationally from our colleagues who are teaching other subjects. Many a times when we're getting ready for testing during the school year, or we're getting ready to take a trip, it's easy for teachers to pull students out of our band and choir classes without a blink of an eye, and they're not always considerate of how detrimental that can be to our success or our progress when they're always using the same period for remediation and is sacrificing the time we have with our students in band, choir, or orchestra class. Or if we're getting ready for a trip, the number of times our students receive gripes and complaints from teachers or administrators about missing work or not being able to get work ahead of time. Yet it may not hold the same weight, when an athlete misses class. When an athlete has to travel, is no problem. It's just an understood, this is how it goes. But when it comes to our arts programs, if we have to travel to represent our schools or institutions, we're not always met with the same fairness or with the same understanding. So we may need academic and educational support. And then community support. We need people to attend our events. How many times, can you sit back and think you've put all this hard work into a competition or a spring concert or winter concert only to have the same 10, 20 faithful people show up in the audience? You're working very hard, you have a dynamic program prepared, and then you look out in the audience and the house is not even half full. So we need support from our school community, and we need support from our local community as well. So these are the types of support that we'll consider as we're going through this webinar. I want you to think in parts of your academic year, things that you should do before the school year begins, things you should do during the school year, and things you should do at the end of the year to help garner and foster that support for your program from everyone that you're seeking this support from. So what type of support do you want or need for your program this year? Think about COVID, think about the impact it has had on your program, think about your planning and what you're trying to do or regroup for next year, providing we return to full face-to-face instruction for the 2021-22 school year. What type of financial support do you feel you need for your program right now? Do you need instruments? Do you need new choir robes? Do you need risers? Do you need new guitars? Do you need reeds, valve oil, drumsticks, drum heads? Think about what you need for your program. What type of equipment, resources, or uniforms do you need? What type of support do you need as far as recruitment and retention? Do you need time from your administrators to be able to go to your feeder schools, to your middle schools, and talk and recruit? Do you need to have, for college professors, do you need assistance, with being able to travel or being able to support virtual recruitment fairs right now? Think about marketing, publicity, and promotion. What type of support do you need to publicize your program, to publicize your events? Okay, do you need help with your website? Do you need help getting brochures out? Or do you need help building a lot of the emails and inquiries that you get about your program? Do you want improved program or event attendance? Is this something you're looking for? If you're not packing the house right now, is this something you're seeking to do? Are you seeking to change venues? Are you seeking to try to do different types of performances in a more intimate setting to try to attract a different crowd? Do you want fewer class disruptions? Okay. What type of support do you need from your colleagues, from your math teachers, from your history teachers in order to aid in fewer class disruptions during the school year? Do you want more practice time? For those of us, some institutions and some public schools may only be able to practice 1 day a week, even when we're in face-to-face instruction. Do you want better access to facilities? Are you battling with your athletics director about having access to the practice field or having access to the gym? Do you want to staff? I know many of us, we're a jack of all trades, whether you're a band, choir, orchestra, you wear many hats, and sometimes you have to do all of this alone. And a lot of the times we try to communicate this to our administrators that we need help. But oftentimes, we have to figure out how to spell that out or how to present it in a way that we can actually receive the help that we're looking for. Do you want more volunteers or chaperones? Do you need a seamstress? Do you need more people that are readily available to help transport your equipment, help monitor your students when you're on trips? What type of support do you feel you want or need for your program this year? So those are some things to think about before your school year even begins, because that's going to guide your school year. That's going to guide how you interact with people. That's going to guide how you plan for performances, whether you can and cannot do certain things based on the level of support you have, or whether it's worth your time or worth your ensemble's time based on the level of support or the turnout that you anticipate receiving for those events. Some things that I found that that have worked for me both on the K-12 level as a director and in higher ed when I was a university band director, were doing some simple things before the school year begins to garner support. I always put out a preseason camp packet, and while a lot of the times we associate this with band directors, this is something that choral directors can do as well. I know we don't usually think about summer choral camps, but maybe if you're able to do a one-day camp or a two-day camp during the summer, that may also help garner support and boost recruitment for your programs. And of course, recruitment translates into support as well, because with that student comes their parents, their families, their friends that are going to come cheer them on. So you might want to consider providing a preseason camp packet that tells a little bit about your program, what your expectations are for the year. It introduces yourself. Everyone likes to start the school year with a nice warm welcome letter. It kind of sets everyone up for what to expect from you. For new people who are coming into your program, it gives them a friendly introduction to who you really are. So a lot of the times having a camp packet or just having a summer packet, a welcome back letter to introduce yourself before your students meet you may be a great way to garner support for your program. And this is just not true for band and choir people, but if you're teaching music appreciation, you may want to just email or send a welcome letter to all of your students that you're teaching, so that it kind of takes the roughness off or the nervousness off about meeting you and interacting with you for the school year. For those of you who are seeking to recruit, it works on the K-12 level, especially on the high school level. Host an open house. I know our school systems often host an open house, but 9 times out of 10, they may come around to your band and choir room for 5 minutes. They spend most of their time with math, English teachers, with guidance counselors, and with athletics. So hosting your own open house gives them, you get their undivided attention. You can go over instruments. You can get a lot of the preliminary logistics out of the way first. You can probably get measurements done, get people to sign up and fill out important forms, and you get a chance to pick up students who you may have missed during your recruitment trips earlier in the year. So you're getting those new transfer students. You're getting those students who may have been unprepared or a little shy when you did auditions the previous spring semester. By hosting this open house, now you know exactly which of these students are actually zoned for your school and coming to your school, and you're giving a renewed interest, but you're also getting a commitment from them right there on the spot that they're going to be with you for that academic year. I will also, and I've done this in the past, email all of your faculty. Email the entire faculty through your faculty listserv and email your administrators, just saying, hey, we're looking forward to a great year. These are some exciting things we have planned for the, whatever the name of your school is, your program is. This is what we have planned for the band and choir this year. We hope that you'll come out and support. If you know of anyone that wants to join our program, then, this is my contact information. Refer them to me. But by sending an email to your faculty administrator, you're doing two things. One, you're involving them and making them aware of your events. But then two, you're increasing accountability, because they can't say that they didn't know that your concert was coming up because you've presented it to them in writing in an email at the beginning of the year. A newsletter. Probably do a quarterly newsletter, or do a newsletter once a semester. Beginning of the year to say, hey, these are some great things we have coming up. Maybe spotlight your student leaders that you've just selected for the year, spotlight any achievements that you wrapped up the previous year with, and maybe spotlight some key performances that you have coming up for the year, like stay tuned or be on the lookout for this. You don't want to miss this. I think creating that level of excitement beforehand will garner early support for your program when the school year begins, and you will already generate a buzz about what it is you're doing. Communicate with your guidance counselors, or in the event that you have a dean of students, or in the case of higher education people who are listening in, communicate with your advisors in the Office of Admissions. The least someone can say is no. If you're looking for last minute recruitment or last minute support, have them help you send out an email to the entire student body introducing who you are and letting them know, that it's not too late to join your band, choral, or orchestral program and exactly what steps they need to take to join. You would be surprised how much that gets people talking about your program, but also how much that boosts last minute recruitment from people who are already at your school or coming to your school for that year. So that works on all levels, K-12 and higher ed. Communicate with your Office of Admissions, guidance counselor, dean of students, and have them help you to send out an email to the entire student body. And then meet with your administrators before the year. A lot of times, we'll get the interview, we'll get the job, and then we'll never sit down with that administrator ever again unless we're in a faculty meeting. We'll get the interview and we'll ask about expectations and goals then, because we're gung ho about getting the job, we're excited, and we want to say the right things to get the job, but we forget that we have to follow it with our administrators to make sure that what they said in the interview matches what the reality is when you actually have the job and you have to start the year. Because a lot of the times, you're selling yourself to them, but they're selling themselves to you. And a lot of the times that product might be defective and you might want a refund on that product if they're not giving you, the right information you need. They'll say, yeah, we're behind you 100%. And then it's like that honeymoon period will go away. And all of a sudden, everything they promised you that you had, because you never followed up on it, they just let it fizzle by the wayside. So you want to meet with your administrators every year before the school year begins to review and reaffirm the vision that they have for your program, the goals and expectations they have for your program, and then also to reaffirm your vision, because your vision for your program is important too. Not only do you have to show them how you're going to support their vision, but you need to know how they plan to support your vision. You have people, and I'll use band as an example, they want a 100-piece band, they want an 80-piece band, a 200-piece band, but they're not willing to support what it takes to actually help you to produce that. They're not willing to give you, or they're having a slight case of amnesia when it comes to actually supporting the things you need, whether it's a staff, whether it's equipment, whether it's money to help you actually support that. So you want to sit down with them at least once a year and kind of review and reaffirm that vision, goals, and expectations, and then review your budget as well. By doing this, you're garnering more support from your administrators to stand by their word and to continue to support you. A lot of the times, if you're coming into a new program, you're rebuilding or you're building from scratch, and of course, we'll talk about this in another webinar, but a lot of the times, you have to understand it's not going to happen overnight. They have to understand it's not going to happen overnight, but their support is going to be critical to you being successful. So these are some things you can do before the school year begins. During the year, and this is something that I've done mostly on the K-12 level. I didn't really do it in higher ed because, the university is so spread out and you have thousands of people that you'd have to account for. So it could work, but you might have to do it on a smaller scale or be more direct. But I launched a poll or a scavenger hunt. I did one this year where I sent a poll to the entire faculty, staff, and administrators. And the poll was basically to ask them if they had a musical background. You can use a poll or a scavenger hunt to identify faculty, staff, and administrators who have a musical background and may have been in a music program in school. Identify those who held student leadership positions. You'd be surprised. A Spanish teacher may have been a drum major in high school, may have been the lead singer in their a cappella choir. Or identify those who served on auxiliary squads. This is doing one or two things. One, by identifying those teachers who have a background in music, they understand what it takes to have a good music program. They understand the time that's put in, they understand practice schedules, so they're less likely to give you resistance when you need to have a practice after school, when your band or choir has to travel. But also, if you are low on staff and you're unable to hire outside for your staff, you may be surprised that that math teacher used to be a color guard captain or a dance captain at their institution. So that's now someone who can be an ally for you, or a staff member who's already on the school's payroll. So now that's a staff member who is serving a dual purpose, can help you out as a volunteer without you having to go out and find someone else. So launching that poll or scavenger hunt can help you to learn more about your faculty and colleagues, but it also helps garner support from them for your program, because it's going to put them on the spot. When you find out they have a background in music, now you can have a different type of conversation with them when you're trying to garner support for your program, whether it's coming to events, supporting events, or sharing students and getting students out of class when you travel. Also, launch a poll for the student body. Identify any students who are not currently in your music program or that but have musical experience. They may have played in elementary or middle school, or in the case of the university level, by launching this poll to the student body through student activities, you're finding out all of those students who may have played an instrument in high school but may not have signed up for your program in college, either because they didn't think they could handle it their freshman year, they didn't have an invitation, they didn't know when auditions were, or because of lack of recruitment dollars, or just you can't go everywhere at one time, you didn't get a chance to go to their school and they just happen to end up at your university. So identifying these students can also add to last minute recruitment, but it gets students to kind of reminisce about the good times they had in their band program. So now they're going to start looking out for when the band or choir is performing, and they're going to try to, they're going to start showing up at your events, or they're going to start cheering you on. So doing a poll or a scavenger hunt early in the year can help you to identify these people who have musical experience and help get some allies or more support for your program. Additionally, use the morning announcements. Use your school website. Get with whoever the webmaster is or whoever does the morning announcements, your video production teacher, or whoever you need to, and publicize and promote your events for the month, the semester, or a year. Make sure your events run on the website. Make sure they run on the morning announcements. And as it gets closer to the actual date for the event, ask the webmaster to put it on the front page of your school's website so that when people visit the website, that is the first thing they see are events and promotion about your program. Market your program. You want to create band boosters out of your colleagues. Okay, you have a band budget or a choir budget, or just an ensemble budget, and a lot of the times that budget comes from school dollars or district dollars. So with that, I would say, hey, get an inexpensive T-shirt says I support the band, I support the choir or the orchestra, and provide every faculty member in your building with a T-shirt. And ask them to say, hey, we have a pet rally coming up on Friday. We're asking all our faculty to wear your support the band, support the choir, support the orchestra T-shirts. With them having those shirts on, you be surprised the amount of pride that it's going to instill in your school. It's going to boost school pride. But then when the students see their teachers wearing shirts that says I support the band, or I support the choir, or I support the orchestra, they're going to start to raise some eyebrows too, and they're going to start to say, hey, I want a shirt. So at that point, sell some merchandise in your school store, or create your own store in your department or your building, whether you sell inexpensive T-shirts with something simple on it representing your program, or get spirit items like cups, wristbands, or jackets, something that can pour right back into your program. Or have someone who is qualified, get with the home ec teacher at your school. If they still have home ec, they probably call it something else now, but have them make some items, have them sew items or things to represent your program, and then sell them, and then just split the profits between that organization and your program. But again, market your program and create band boosters out of your colleagues and administrators, and hold your administrators accountable. Say, hey, how's that shirt working out for you? And of course, if you never see them with that shirt on, keep asking them, because eventually they're going to have to put that shirt on. Invite supporters to open rehearsals or dress rehearsals. Sometimes we are so territorial and we don't want anyone at our rehearsals because we don't want them filming, we don't want them stealing our secrets or stealing our shows. That's all well and good. That's great. But you can still invite your supporters if you want to garner more support. Invite them to your rehearsals and dress rehearsals, but just give them some guidelines. Say, hey, no live filming or no pictures. This is a premiere event. Make them feel like a VIP. So you want to almost create a superstar experience, for them. Have them like, this is a VIP premiere. You can come in and view our rehearsals, support the program, see what we're working on. You don't have to play your entire thing or sing your entire repertoire. Just give them something to want more. Leave them wanting more. But allowing them to come into your space allows them to see the hard work that you are putting in. Because 9 times out of 10, if they support you, they're only seeing the finished product. So allowing them to come into your space makes it a more intimate and personal experience, and it will make them want to visit you again. You'd be surprised how many teachers in your building have no clue where your band and choir room is because they've never taken the time to seek it out. So by doing this and having these invitations, you're inviting them to want to explore more with your students and with your program. Create superstar experiences with your concerts and events. Too often we go through the same routine every year. We will do a concert, we'll finish, we'll take our bow, we'll have our students wait till they pass their music in, we'll leave, go to the band room or choir room, and then we'll wait for parents to pick our students up. Or in the instance of the university level, we'll finish our concert and then everybody's off on their own. And they're usually running out of there, to go back to their dorm rooms or to go home for the weekend. Create a superstar experience with your concerts and events. So have like handbills and promotions, run it on the university website, make a commercial about it. Um, think about your staging. Don't just have boring staging for your concerts. Have something that kind of is attractive but not distracting at the same time. Not just the poinsettias, around Christmas time. Have it where at the end of your concert, your musicians come down, your singers and your instrumentalists come down and sign autographs. Have backstage passes, create backstage passes so that for VIP people, and they have to do certain things in order to be able to get a backstage pass to come and, talk to people backstage or see the dressing area or see the rehearsal area or see how you made this costume or that costume if you're in show choir or theater or anything like that. So create superstar experiences. At the end of the year, you don't want to just end on, on a note. You want to kind of recap the year with a newsletter or an email. Let people know what you did, what you accomplished that year, because you'd be surprised from August to May or September to June or wherever your school year is. You'd be surprised the amount of things a band, choir, and orchestra achieves in a year's time. We do way more than some of the other organizations, at our institutions and our schools, and oftentimes it's not documented. So you want to recap the year with a newsletter or an email, saying, hey, we had a great year this year. This is what we did. This is what we have coming up next year. And we wish you a great summer. You want to thank supporters for their contributions during the year. You want to acknowledge the fact that people came to your concerts. You want to acknowledge the fact that people gave to your program, whether it's financial or that they gave of their time. And then you want to preview summer events or key events that people should be on the lookout for in the following year, whether it's a summer preseason camp, whether you have a big fundraiser going on. I know out here we have the big fireworks fundraiser each year that a lot of our programs participate in. So they advertise that before the end of the year so people know to look out for that. Have a parent meeting. We often have a parent meeting at the beginning of the year when they drop students off of band camp. We give our rules, guidelines, and then we never talk to our parents again. But you want your parents to come out and support, and you don't want to feel like babysitters. You don't want to feel like parents are always showing up late. Well, include them, involve them, keep them in the know, and they'll be there more. So do a wrap up with your parents. Let them know what went well, what you need for the following year. Let them know if you had some shortfalls as far as like, hey, we still need people to pay their band dues. We still need people to pay their choir dues. Let them know what the summer expectations are. If you want their kids to work out during the summer, let them know that. If you want the kids to practice over the summer, let them know that. Again, parents can't read your mind. So you have to communicate with your parents and your families often. Communicate with them early, communicate with them often, not just at the beginning of the year. And this is true for college professors too, whether it's band, choir, orchestra, music majors, or whatnot. Have a meeting with your parents. Yes, our students coming to college are grown, but I always used to have a parent meeting because, one, especially for freshmen, they may be grown, but they're just like 2 months removed from being in their parents' homes. So having that parent meeting reassures the parents that their students are in safe hands and good hands, that you have strict expectations for academics and musicality, and what to expect, that that they're going to have a good experience in your program. So do a parent meeting to wrap up. And then, of course, at the end of the year, meet with your administrators to wrap up. Just say, hey, this went well. I want to thank you for your support. These are some things we were able to do this year with your support. You want to always make them feel good and let them know that their support helped in some way. And then say, hey, this was great. In order to be able to do X, Y, and Z next year, we're going to need this, that, and the other. That's when you ask for additional support. And if you're not happy with your budget, a lot of times meeting with your administrators and you having that rapport with them and communicating with them what your needs are, because they can't read your minds, maybe they can continue to advocate for you to increase your budget for the following year based on your successes from the current year and based on that communication that, hey, this is what we need in order for us to be successful. Can you help us? Part two talks about collaboration and synergy. We talked a lot about planning and communication and logistics, but this is talking about just thinking outside the box on some things that you can do within your school and within the community to garner support in ways that you may not have thought of before. So within the school, collaborate with your teachers. So I know, we're saying we had enough on our plate, we do enough. I shouldn't have to do this, I shouldn't have to do that. It is that mentality that keeps our programs at 40 people or less. It is that mentality that keeps our programs with fluctuating numbers during the year, in the middle of the year, because we're not willing to do something new. We're not willing to work or collaborate with others. It has to be a two-way street. It can't just be take, take, take. It has to be, equal push and pull. So synergy and collaboration with course syllabi and course content. That means like other arts teachers in your department. If more than one of you are teaching music appreciation, more than one of you are teaching different classes where we share students, kind of collaborate and see what's common. Maybe you can team teach. That way you're garnering support from the other arts teachers in your department as well. You don't want the division between band, choir, and orchestra. You want everyone working together in harmony, because a lot of the times we're going to share the same students or we're going to be on the same programs together. And it's better when you work together. Is that old acronym team, together everyone achieves more. That is so true. But sometimes you may program music based on academic themes or something students are studying or preparing for, or incorporating various academic elements into the performances or into your marching band halftime shows. So, for example, if you're studying Rome, or if you're studying Western history, you might incorporate a fanfare in your show that has a Roman theme. If you're studying something in a foreign language, then maybe you can connect that with maybe some vocabulary in your music or something, and have that come to life, and involve those teachers who are teaching that content in your lesson. If they're learning geometrical shapes and geometry, just for example, you might want to incorporate some of those shapes on the field. I mean, just something thinking outside the box to show that you're supporting what the students are doing academically, and that all of this works together. A lot of times, we'll say it just because it's out of habit. Well, music is science, and music is math, and music is art. But is it really? Are we really demonstrating that it truly combines with all of those things? So programming music, or just thinking outside the box as to how to show our students and show our teachers that all of this works well together, that's something that we can do. Have music students present in various classes from a musical standpoint. So let's say you have a trumpet player that's in physics class and you're doing a lesson on frequency. Maybe having that student collaborate with that teacher to talk about frequency from a music standpoint, pitch, interval, decibels. All of that can go hand in hand. Or even in your class, if they're studying frequency and pitch in physics, maybe that's something you can piggyback on and reinforce in your music classes, talking about pitch, frequency, hertz, and everything like that. Historical events, again, if they're talking about the War of 1812, then maybe you can work on the 1812 overture. So just doing some things to combine and collaborate with teachers to show that we're all working together to educate our students, and that what they learn over here can be applicable to what they learn in your classes. Invite your teachers with a musical background to serve as a conductor, student leader, or drum major for a day or for an event. So let's say your history teacher was a drum major. Then maybe if you're at a pep rally, have them come out and march out with the drum major. Have them conduct the song. If you had the English teacher was a majorette, ask her if she wants to perform at the pep rally with the band. Pull her out to the floor. A lot of the times we'll go to pep rallies and the cheerleaders will go into the crowd and pull volunteers onto the floor to cheer with them. Same thing with the band. Get involved and collaborate with your teachers. I think the more you can have them tap back into like their youth or their childhood or whatever, I think the more they're willing to support you and your program. The more fun they can have with you and the more human they can be with you, the more support they're going to have with you. Again, think about, I'm not going to go through all of these, but just think about the subjects that you have within the school collaborations. What can you do with your ensembles or with your content area to collaborate with the math teacher, science teacher, the foreign language teacher? For example, you're preparing a winter concert program, a spring concert program, you're a choral director, and a lot of the languages you're singing are French, German, and Italian. Have those students that are taking French, Spanish, German, or Italian classes translate your songs for the audience. Have them write your program notes. Get them involved, so that it kind of creates support. And then, of course, when those students come to your concert, work it out with their teachers to give them extra credit. Okay. CTE courses, whether it's technology, video production, you need commercials, you need someone to film your halftime shows, you need someone to film your practices. Get with those students who are actually taking video production. One, for them, it gives them more practical experience and more experience actually filming a live group, instead of trying to film I guess, hypothetical scenarios. They're actually filming a live group, and it makes their classroom projects a lot more relevant to them. But then, two, it's going to give you some more innovative and unique filming for your ensemble, okay? Because each student that comes to film your group is going to be creative and have their own identity. So it's going to give you multiple ways to kind of promote your program while also working together with other content areas. JROTC, and for the college level ROTC, you're doing conditioning and preseason camp, work out with ROTC. Have that camaraderie there. A lot of the times they're already equipped, them and physical education and health, they're already equipped not only to understand the exercises that are meant for each muscle group, but they understand how to prevent injury. They understand proper warm up and cool down, whereas a lot of us in the music realm may not understand that. So by collaborating with those groups, you're going to have a more effective workout, and you're going to have less injuries when you're trying to have PT or physical training or occupational training before your season starts. Work with your librarian, work with your guidance counselors. I already mentioned, talk with the student body, administrators, work with your support staff, bus drivers and stuff. You garner more support when you have an understanding that your students are going to clean the bus. When you come back from an event, your bus drivers are going to be more apt to drive for you. And the more comfortable you make them feel and the more you support them, the more apt they're going to be to show up on time. They're not going to be upset with you when you want to make extra stops while you're out on the trip. So just garnering that support from your bus drivers, you're going to eventually have bus drivers that are going to be fighting over who's going to drive for your group, because your group is well behaved. They always support, they give back, and they clean up the buses at the end of the trip. Same thing with custodians, just maybe helping out with the custodians as community service, collaborating with them, and maybe having the band or the choir take the CTE wing of the school or the fine arts wing of the school and helping to clean that wing for the day. That's going to garner more support, and you're going to start to see the custodians are speaking to your students more during the school day. They're coming to your concerts more. They're standing outside listening to you all practice. That's support. That's more support than you had before. Cafeteria workers, you're in preseason camp or even during the school year, take one day during the week, get with your cafeteria manager and say, hey, the choir or the band or the orchestra is going to wipe down all of your tables today. Have one day during the week where you go and perform a concert in the cafeteria for your cafeteria workers, because 9 times out of 10, even at games, they're working the concession stand or they're working, so they'll never actually get a chance to hear you or see you perform. By doing that, you're garnering more support. So when you march by them, when you perform, when you go into class, when you're getting ready for a trip, now you have a cheering squad that's going to cheer you on. Again, more support that you didn't have before. You definitely need to collaborate with athletics. A lot of the times we get a lot of resistance from athletics when it comes to utilizing some of the safe spaces they use. Coordinating with the football team to use a football field for practice or dress rehearsals, coordinating with the basketball team to use a gym floor to rehearse. So getting those collaborations early and building those partnerships early builds more support for your program. And then, of course, security at your school, school security, and campus police if you're on the university level. Having a good relationship with them a lot of the times and collaborating with them when it's time for you to go to practice. You'd be surprised, they'll help, escort you out when you go to a game, or they'll help to make sure that your students are secure while you're waiting for parents to pick them up. It's all about collaboration and partnerships. Collaborate with your students. Provide incentives for non-music students to attend music events. So whether it's getting with the English professor who has them write a composition paper on a composer, or something like that, work with them to get extra credit if they show up, bring you a program, and you sign the program. Okay, give them backstage or sideline passes. To come and see your events or have a VIP entrance. You'd be surprised how many people will come to the gym to watch your dress rehearsal before your performance. Incorporate your students in the school in promoting, publicizing, and marketing your program. So again, work with video production, journalism, ROTC, and PE students. Work with your foreign language students. Even incorporate American Sign Language students to help provide a better experience for the hearing impaired audience. You'd be surprised how much your audience would increase if you provide that added concept to your performances, to have an ASL translator to translate your performances and your concerts for the hearing impaired audience. And then support students outside of music. Don't just, support what they can do for you. Do something for them as well. Attend their academic and sporting events, highlight their achievements, even if it's a religious or social event. So like if they're getting their Eagle Scout award, or if they received a scholarship, or if they're singing on their church's program, if you can, within reason, try to support them, because not only are you giving them support, now everybody that sees you there, now their church is going to start to support you at your events. Now their Eagle Scouts are going to, and their scout leaders going to start supporting you at your events as well. So you have to give a little to get a little. And of course, community service and volunteer activities. I already mentioned, wiping down the tables in the cafeteria and garnering support from the cafeteria staff, or even in the library, offering to go to the elementary schools or the middle schools and kind of read, to the kids. The more they see you, go in your band uniform, go in your choir uniform, go and sing, for those, and have it in the library. And then they'll be looking forward to you and to other programs that you have. Outside of the school with families, again, just stay in touch with your families. That's going to garner more support. A lot of the times parents and families don't come to the concerts because they simply don't know, or they didn't know ahead of time, or I know sometimes work may impair it, or they're just getting off, or they're trying to take care of other family members. But if you let them know well in advance about your events, and then remind them often with the newsletter, emails, phone calls, they'll be more, apt to support you. Have a family day or a family night concert, or a first view premiere, or special VIP viewing event. So at the end of your preseason camp, or after you've been in school for a couple of weeks, your very first concert should be geared towards your families. Those families that have students in your programs. Have an event either during the day, while school is in session, or right after school, at a time where they can come out and it's only the families of the students in your program there, so they can feel like they have a special VIP experience viewing your concert before anyone else sees it. I think the more you do that, even if you don't do it but once or twice a year, I think if you're able to do that, you're going to get more families cheering you on, and you're going to start to see some family members that you've never seen before coming to your events. Create a spirit pack or spirit items for families to show support during the year. So whether it's some thunder sticks, if you have a student that's new coming into your program, send them a spirit pack at home, so that when their families come to your events, they have pom-poms to cheer you on, they have a bracelet, they have a megaphone, the cheap plastic megaphones with like your logo, your choir logo, or your band logo on it. Have a spirit pack. It's just like when you see athletes go to college, or they get scouted to go to college, they get scholarships, they usually get a duffel bag with a windsuit in it, they get headbands, they might get some Beats headphones and things like that as a welcome packet for being on that team, because they were scouted or recruited as number 5 in the nation or whatever. So make your band, choir, orchestra students have that same, celebrity status experience, whether they're coming into your middle school, or your high school, or coming into your college program. Send a spirit packet home so that they have a starter kit, for supporting your program. So when those parents come out, they have a banner or something that they hold up, to support you, and that student has their own cheering session. The more people that see that, the more people are going to want those same items to cheer you on. So that's garnering more support for your program. Feeder programs, middle schools, high schools, do exchange concerts. Invite the middle schools to come and play on a spring concert. I know out here, some of our schools have as many as 3 feeder middle schools, where some schools may only have 1 feeder middle school. But invite that school to come and play on your spring concert if it's just one school. If it's more than one school, have a concert in the spring just for them, where each school comes and performs 2 songs on your stage, and then you go to their school and perform a concert on their stage. Have virtual and face-to-face recruitment events. Of course, virtual now that we're in COVID, but even post-COVID, keep the virtual thing going, because with budgets, with gas, travel, and then just with us not having enough time in a day, virtual recruitment is still relevant. And it gets you into everyone's household without having to drive but 6, 8, 12 hours or longer to try to get there. Host honor band, honor choir, honor orchestra events. Plan it out, whether it's once a year or once every other year, depending on what your program can support. Um, but you want to get students at your school as often as possible. The more they're at your school, the more they're on your campus, the more support you're going to get, and you're always going to be in the forefront of their mind. Have band, choir, orchestra for a day event. So of course, in the fall semester, have the students from your feeder programs come out and march with your program for the day. March at a game like Family and Friends Day game. If it's a choir, invite them maybe for your winter concert. Invite your eighth graders, or invite your seniors to come and sing with your choir. Same thing with orchestra. Create a buddy or a mentor program with your student leaders or upperclassmen. Have your student leaders mentor or pair up with someone at the middle school level to kind of mentor them as they go through middle school and say, hey, we're looking forward to you being here. I play the same instrument you play. These are some things we're working on. This is what you have to look forward to. A lot of the times, it's that old cliche of mama and daddy tell you something, you don't want to listen to it. But if auntie or uncle or if a brother or sister tells you the same thing, you're going to listen to it more because it's someone you can relate to. Have regular visits. Guest teach at your feeder schools. Ask to come in and do a lesson. Ask to come in. One is going to give that middle school teacher a relief, because they don't have to teach for that day. You're coming in to teach their class. Even if you're a university professor, you want to break away from your university for a day, go down and go back to the basics. Go teach, well, not necessarily go back to the basics, but step down into a high school and teach a high school band class for the day. One is going to give you a better appreciation of what high school band directors go through on a daily basis, in addition to teaching bus duty, meetings, this duty, that duty. But it also gives you a chance to really build that rapport with that school and with those students. So have regular visits. Don't let the only time these students see you be when you're trying to recruit them or audition them. Don't have the only time that they see you be the beginning of the year and they don't see you anymore until the beginning of the following year. You want to regularly visit your feeder programs if you can. Offer free private lessons. Those students are coming to your school. It's going to pay off eventually anyway. So have those students come to your school and take free private lessons. Again, the more they interact with you, the more support you're going to get from them and their families and from their feeder band directors, because the band director is going to notice that that student is getting stronger and stronger, and then they're going to support anything you're doing. Anything you're doing, because you're helping to support their program as well. And then of course, give a recruitment welcome pack that has a letter in it, welcoming them with a picture of you, a pencil, a spirit item, or something to have the students get excitement about coming to your school before preseason camp begins. And finally, with the community, think outside the box. You know, there are free sections in the newspaper where you can announce community events. You don't always have to pay for ads in a newspaper. Use the free community section to announce what's going on with your band, choir, or orchestra. Use the local TV stations. I know it used to have the local cable stations that announce all school events. Just make sure you know when the deadlines are and get your concerts, get your events, get your auditions announced on the local TV stations. Even colleges, if you know you're holding auditions certain times of the year, send that information to the cable TV station in the areas you're trying to recruit from and have them included on those stations. Partner with the fire, police, EMT, banks, and the library. for sponsorships and fundraisers. Maybe they can help garner financial support for your program or garner donations for your programs. But also, many of these places have large marquees outside of their building. And a lot of times they have the same message up there over and over and over again. Why not ask them, if you have a big event coming up, hey, can you run this announcement across your marquee for 4 days, for 3 days, for one day? And you'd be surprised, everyone that's driving past in that community is going to see that your band, choir, orchestra has an event coming up. And they're going to put it, it's going to be constantly in their mind like that subliminal message, and they're going to show up at your event. Have performances where you include a meet and greet for the community to come out and meet and greet with your program. They get to come out and see you perform. They get to meet people in your program. They get to meet your staff, and they get to learn more about what you have coming up for the year. Present at your school board meetings, at community meetings, at the Chamber of Commerce meetings. Just present and give program updates, and let people know. Keep people informed of what it is you're doing, and also let them know what you need. Hey, the program is getting big, we're running out of uniforms, or the program is getting big, but we're afraid we may not have enough instruments. You don't have to ask then, and it's not breaking protocol, because you're not saying, well, we don't get any money from our district. That's not what you're saying. You're just putting it in people's mind to have them start asking questions. Well, what do we need to do to help get you some more uniforms? What do we need to do to help get you some more instruments or equipment? So you're just providing information. The program is growing. We've had substantial growth, but we're running out of uniforms, or we're facing this issue, we're facing this issue, but in the meantime, this is what we're doing. And then, of course, volunteer and do community service activities like highway cleanups or park cleanups or something like that. Again, the more people see you in the community, and have your band, choir, or orchestra t-shirts on when you do that, the more people see you in the community, people are going to stop you and say, hey, what school do you go to? What program are you in? What instrument do you play? And then that turns into, oh, I used to play that instrument, or I sung in the choir. And now they're saying, hey, when is your next performance? And so now you're garnering support from people that live in the community that your institution or your school serves. When this is all over, you get to the end of the year, you need to reflect again. Ask yourself, what went well? What challenges did you face that year? Did you see an increase in concert attendance? What can you do differently if you didn't? Is it that you might need to change the time of your concerts? If you're having your concerts at 7 o'clock on a Wednesday, that's a church night. Maybe you need to move it to 7 o'clock on a Tuesday, or 4 o'clock on a Sunday if you're at a university, depending. So what can you do differently, or what can you adjust? It's almost like pieces to a puzzle. If it doesn't fit here, how can I turn it, or how can I move it to make it fit? Where will it fit best? And then ask yourself, how will you proceed or plan for next year? We know what went well. We know what challenges we had. We know we wish we could have went back and did differently. So how am I going to use all of this to plan for next year so that next year is even better? And of course, interactive activity, we kind of did it throughout. I would have had, the goal was to have a workbook for this, but I'm going to do that at a different time. I will post online a link to a Google document so that you'll have an interactive workbook that recaps this presentation. And it'll also allow you to kind of have like a working document or a planning document, so that as you're thinking about your program, you have some things that you can fill in based on the bullet points that I've stated that you can use to implement in your program. Now, will you use everything? No. Use what applies to you and what you feel is easy for you and best for you to use. And then from there, you can decide how to best implement it into your program. Okay, I'm going to stop and take a few moments to see if I have any questions. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And let's see. Oh, let's see. Okay. So again, I'm still trying to figure out this live Facebook thing, but seeing no questions. If you do have any questions, I'm going to get better with the live on Facebook type thing. But if you do have any questions, please feel free to email me at L Brock, that's BROCK, at prodigiousmusicconcepts.org. And I'll post it in the chat here. I'm not sure if you're on Zoom, you'll see it in the chat here. If you're on Facebook, I'll post it on Facebook after I end this session. But feel free to reach out to me and I will include my business phone as well. And I just want to thank you. I know, like I said, in this age, a lot of us have virtual fatigue. And as I mentioned earlier, some of my webinars this semester will be live and interactive. Others will be pre-recorded because I do understand that we are just virtual with Zoomed out, Google Meet, Microsoft Teams, you name it, we are just done. And so understanding that, I'm trying to be very considerate and very innovative as to how I present my webinars. Many of them will be live and interactive, and I'll try to make sure I reiterate that when I post them and publish them. But a lot of them will be pre-recorded so that you can watch them and go back to them at your leisure when you feel you have the time to watch them. I didn't want to just hold the information and not get it out there because I feel it's important, but I also feel that it's important that I'm respectful of your time and respectful that you need to sometimes deprogram and kind of, get away from being on technology all day. So this is being recorded so that if you missed it or you know someone that wanted to see it but was just tired or just doing other things, they can go back and see it. It will be published on my YouTube channel, PMC Professional Development, and I'll post that on Facebook as well so that you will have the YouTube link so that anyone that wants to go back and see this at any time can. Please feel free to share this with anyone you know that may benefit from this webinar. So thank you. Thank you for tuning in, and stay tuned for future webinars. I have a webinar entitled Overcoming Performance Anxiety and Stage Fright that is pre-recorded and will air on Monday, January 18th at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time on YouTube. I will post that link on Facebook, Instagram, and some other social media avenues. And then I have a webinar coming up. It will be a live interactive webinar on Thursday, January 28th, 2021 at 7 p.m. Eastern Time entitled Building a Band or Choir Program from the Ground Up. Again, that's also coming from the Facebook poll in which many people say, we've given the tools to walk into a turnkey program, but we may not have always prepared our students to go into a program that they've had to build or rebuild from scratch. So that webinar will address a lot of those questions and a lot of those techniques from panelists who have been experts who have successfully rebuilt or built programs from the ground up. So again, thank you for tuning in tonight, and I hope you all have a great week. Take care.